Asuma Sarutobi, the cigarette that never burned. Asuma Sarutobi was never the flashiest jonin. He didn't bask in fame or seek admiration, but for Team 10 he was a cornerstone, a father figure with a cigarette between his lips and wisdom behind his eyes. When Hidan of the Akatsuki trapped him in that grotesque ritual circle, surrounded by his students, there was no flashy genjutsu or last-second save. Just blood. Slow, unstoppable blood. Asuma's body failed, but his spirit never flinched. And in his last moments he didn't speak of war, or strategy, or anger. He spoke about the life he wouldn't get to live, the unborn child he would never hold. His thoughts weren't on revenge, but on love, on family, and when Shikamaru lit that final cigarette, he didn't inhale it. He let it burn as a symbol, a farewell, a silent promise to carry on the lessons Azuma had engraved into his soul. Azuma's death wasn't a spectacle, but that's what made it so heavy. It didn't explode with drama. It settled, quietly, in the pit of your heart, the kind of loss that doesn't scream, but lingers. Jiraiya, the smile before the fall. Jiraiya of the Sannin, a pervert, a wanderer, a goof, was never meant to be taken seriously, until he was. Beneath the jokes, the books, and the antics, he was something deeper, a teacher, a godfather, a protector of dreams. When he faced pain alone, it wasn't out of pride or delusion. He knew the odds. He knew it was a mission he wouldn't return from. But that wasn't the point. His fight wasn't about winning. It was about buying enough time to learn something, anything that might help Naruto one day triumph. He took every hit with purpose, every wound a question he was dying to answer, even as his throat was crushed, even as his body sank into the cold ocean depths. Jiraiya didn't curse his fate. He smiled, not for himself, but for the boy he left behind. He believed, truly believed, that Naruto would finish the story he could not, and that belief, that unwavering trust in the next generation, made his death feel like losing a father, not just for Naruto, but for us too. Neji Hyuga, the curse that became freedom. Neji Hyuga entered the world in chains. Born into the branch family of the Hyuga clan, his forehead was branded with a seal that screamed, "Your life is not your own." A genius, yes. A prodigy, yes, but one shackled by fate. For most of his life, Neji believed destiny was a cage, one that couldn't be escaped. But the war changed him. Naruto changed him. And when the Ten Tails launched its ruthless assault, when death came flying in the form of sharpened wood, meant for Naruto, Neji didn't hesitate. He moved, not because he was ordered to, not because duty demanded it, but because he chose to. He chose to protect the people who had given him something more powerful than a jutsu, a sense of freedom. His final words weren't filled with anger or fear, just quiet recognition, because you called me a genius. A simple sentence, but behind it, an entire life rewritten. Neji didn't just die, he was liberated. Itachi Uchiha, the brother, the villain, the martyr. To the world, Itachi Uchiha was a traitor, a monster who slaughtered his entire clan, who turned his little brother into a vessel of hatred. But that was the mask. The real Itachi lived in silence, carrying a burden no teenager should ever have to. He became a ghost in the village he loved, a criminal in the eyes of the brother he protected, and when the final battle came, when Sasuke, full of rage, finally struck him down, Itachi didn't resist. He let it happen, because it was never about living, it was about guiding Sasuke to a truth too painful to speak aloud. In the end, Itachi didn't explain himself, he didn't monologue, he simply reached out and tapped Sasuke's forehead, the same gentle gesture from their childhood, a silent "I love you," a final goodbye. It wasn't his death that crushed us, it was how long he lived with the weight of his sacrifice. Itachi wasn't a villain, he was a martyr, and martyrs rarely get happy endings. Minato and Kushina, the parents who chose their son. The night when the Nine Tails broke loose was chaos, fire, screams, the Hokage on his knees, but in the middle of that destruction stood two people who made the most impossible choice, to die so their son could live. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki, the fierce and loving mother. Together they faced the monster, and together they made their final decision to seal the beast into their newborn child, knowing the pain it would cause him. But what makes their death so haunting isn't just the sacrifice, it's what they said as they faded. They didn't talk about duty or honor or their own regrets. They talked about Naruto, about what they wished for his life, the friends he would have, the ramen he'd love, the mischief he'd get into. They crammed a lifetime of parenting into a few parting words, and even in death, they were there for him. Minato and Kushina's sacrifice wasn't just the source of Naruto's pain, it was the root of his strength, a love so powerful it outlived them. Conan, the flower in the storm. Conan, the angel of the rain, quiet, composed, deadly. She believed in peace once when she followed Yahiko and Nagato through the war-torn streets of Amegakure. She believed again when Naruto reminded her of who they once were. But when Obito came, demanding Nagato's Rinnegan, Conan stood alone. No backup, no hesitation, just conviction. She transformed her very soul into thousands of sheets of paper, a blizzard of blades and bombs, 600 billion paper bombs, one for every silent scream, one for every life taken in the name of peace, and for nearly 10 minutes she fought a god, not to win, but to resist, to say, "I still believe." Her death was swift, brutal, and quiet, but in that silence Conan chose a side, and in choosing she became more than a weapon. She became a legacy. Haku and Zabuza, the first lesson in loss. Episode 19. That's when Naruto stopped being just another shonen, when two characters introduced as enemies broke our hearts. Haku, a boy molded into tool, and Zabuza, a killer stripped of kindness. They were shinobi of the hidden mist, trained to kill, not to feel. But when Haku died giving his life to protect Zabuza, the facade cracked. And in that moment, Zabuza cried, not because he was weak, but because for the first time he saw Haku for what he truly was, not a tool, but a person, someone who loved him. And Zabuza, bloodied and broken, crawled to his side, apologized, held his hand, and died beside him. Their deaths weren't noble in the traditional sense, they weren't celebrated, but they were honest. And they taught us something Naruto would never let us forget, that even the forgotten, the discarded, the broken, are still human. Obito Uchiha, the boy who lost everything. Obito Uchiha was once the class clown, the loudmouth, the kid who dreamed of becoming Hokage. He was Naruto. Before Naruto. But one moment changed everything, the moment he saw Rin die. That's when the world broke. That's when the kind boy became the masked man, twisted by grief, fueled by betrayal. For years he wore the identity of Madara, plunging the world into the war. But even in darkness, the ember of who he was never truly went out, and in the end, when Naruto stood before him, not with hatred, but with understanding, Obito remembered. He remembered his friends. He remembered his dreams, his humanity, and he died doing the one thing that still mattered to him, protecting the future he once wanted. His redemption didn't erase the past, it didn't wash away the blood, but it gave him peace. Obito's death wasn't clean or noble or triumphant. It was tragic, and it was real. Conclusion. Why these deaths stay with us? Naruto never promised a world without pain. It gave us characters we loved, and then showed us how easily they could be taken. But these deaths, Asuma, Jiraiya, Neji, Itachi, Minato and Kushina, Conan, Haku, and Zabuza, Obito, they weren't just meant to shock, they were meant to shape. Each death carved a lesson into the story, that courage isn't loud, that love isn't always come with happy endings. That sacrifice builds the future, and each time someone dies, someone else chooses to live differently because of it. Naruto didn't become Hokage despite the pain, he became Hokage because of it, because every loss added something to him, a reason to keep going, a reason to protect, a reason to believe. So tell me, Which death shattered you the most? Which moment still echoes in your chest long after the episode ended? Let us know in the comments, and if your heart can still handle more, watch our next video. Every forbidden jutsu in Naruto, explained through pain. Like, subscribe, and remember, the strongest ninjas always carry the heaviest losses.